Hello, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome back to the Armchair Booking Wrestling Podcast. I'm your host. My name is Stunning Steve Barber. Joining me, as always, is my awesome co-host, the intellectual rock star himself, Delicious Dwaylon Davis.
Hey, everybody.
And Dwaylon and I are very, very excited because our guest for this episode is the living legend, Larry Zbyzsko. How you doing, sir?
Thank you, gentlemen. Steve Dwaylon. I'm doing great. I really can't complain. I'm doing great. God, in 2 months, I'm going to be 72.
Wow.
But health-wise, I feel like I'm 40.
Oh, wow.
The skeleton's getting a little stiff and sore after 25 years in the ring, but I've been lucky. I've been really lucky. I've had 4 little knee scopes, but just with cartilage. I never blew a knee, and I don't need any neck surgeries, back surgeries, artificial parts, and I'm not doing anything to hurt myself. So thank God for stalling.
Yes.
Yeah.
You know what? That's the quote of the day right there.
Yeah.
So,
nowadays, the way these guys are in the ring, it really turned into a really, high risk kind of action where they're flying and flipping over the ropes and crashing through tables and steel chairs. And they're amazing athletes, but they're doing dangerous stuff out there. And I'm surprised. We'll see how many of them make it to 50 without an artificial skeleton.
Yeah. Well, an artificial skeleton, that would, Foley didn't get that far, but I mean, he was pretty close because he broke almost every bone in his body at least once.
He broke a bunch. You know what? Foley had a secret, though. I mean, he was the first guy I saw when I was commentating, I think, or in WCW maybe. He was there with he was the first guy I saw that ran down the apron and did a flip and landed on the floor.
Yes.
He was the first guy I saw do that. But at that time, he was Cactus Jack to me.
Yep.
But the thing about Cactus was he had like a normal upper body and a 5-foot long wide ass. So he had this. So when he flipped off the rope and landed, he landed on this gigantic ass. So I think it saved him a lot.
And you know what? Somebody actually sent us a question to ask you, and it's a friend of ours named Kyle. He's actually the former co-host of the show, but he said there's no real stories of Larry being injured. How did he stay so healthy?
Well, you know what? I mean, I really never got injured. I had 4 little knee scopes, 2 on each knee, but I never blew a knee, never blew an ACL or anything, just little cartilage tears. And they went in and fixed them up. But the thing is, back in my day, when I started in the 70s and through the 80s and even some of the 90s, we weren't doing the things you see on TV today. No one climbed up on the top turnbuckle and flipped off and landed on their heads. But it was a different group of guys. It was guys where if you weren't, 220, 30, 40 pounds or bigger, you won't even get in the door. And they weren't the kind of athletes we have today that can do a lot of that super athletic stuff. They're great athletes. But what we had was tough bastards. Billy Robinson, Carl Gotch. I mean, I can name some other guys, but they didn't care about flipping off the top rope. They knew how to break your arm, break your neck, choke you out, pop your knee out, pull your shoulder out. They were tough bastards. And it was a different world, and a different mindset and a different group of guys. 300-pound Ivan Koloff isn't going to run across the ring and do 2 flips over the top rope and wait for 3 guys standing there with their arms out to catch him. But he was a big, Killer Kowalski's and Bill Watts. And I can keep on going naming them, but they were big, tough, crazy guys. Crazy in a tough way. A different breed of man back then. Now they're more athletic. You could almost call them circus stunt performers compared to what it used to be. Because back, I couldn't imagine doing what they do today. I'm glad that all happened after I retired. Because you get killed. Guys are getting hurt left and right. And I think the fans appreciate it because you got a different audience. And the reality is, They're amazing athletes and they're doing amazing things, but they're dangerous things. And it happens every match. Every match is the same. Everybody's flying over the top. Everybody's running into a foot. Everybody's flipping over the top rope and crashing to the desk. It's just, I mean, it's amazing what they can do, really. Amazing athletes.
So when you trained, and I'm going to assume this is like probably at 72, 73 when you started your training, you trained with Bruno.
Yeah, I started before that in this basement. I was actually just finishing up high school and starting college and working out in Bruno's basement with the weights. I was still wrestling amateur. I wasn't in the pro, but I was working out with him and did his same workout. That's how I kind of got the same kind of look for a while, because his secret was, I mean, it was an upper body business because people saw you on TV from basically, your upper groin or waist up, and they saw that gigantic chest and those trapezius and them big arms. But you got those from doing heavy weight and low reps. Bruno had me, doing wide grip benches. And when I weighed 240 pounds, I was almost 21, getting ready to start. I benched 465 and a half pounds with the 1 second pause. And I weighed like 240. And then I started doing some little house shows on the weekends, finishing up school. But yeah, I did his workout and everything was really heavy weight, low reps. It wasn't the bodybuilder thing, it was the wrestler gorilla thing.
So you maxed out, you said 465 and a half?
465 and a half was my record at 240.
Wow. Almost twice your body weight.
Yeah, and that was before the invention of any helpers, that was weird stuff.
Yeah.
What was Bruno's max on bench? Because I've heard 600 pounds.
Yeah, he held the record for a while. I'm trying to remember, and I don't want to get it wrong because it's, many brain cells ago. 465, 505. I mean, he held the record for a while, and I don't know, something about the 5 was in my mind. It could have been 500 and some pounds or 605, but it was an amazing, I mean, it was over 500 pounds. Could have been 505, 555, could have been 605. But
Yeah,
I mean, he was a gorilla. I mean, his wrists were like 14 inches,
Oh, wow.
big bone. Yeah, I mean, like, a gorilla. I mean, you looked at Bruno.
I don't come close to that.
No,
Yeah, me
nobody
either.
does. I mean, he was a big bone guy. An amazing story because, they escaped World War II, him, his mom, his brother, from the Nazis.
Yep.
And when he got to the United States, he almost died. He was suffering so badly from malnutrition because they couldn't eat. They were escaping. And it was amazing how he looked. But yeah, no, he was really a truly strong. I mean, you looked at his neck. He didn't have a neck. He had trap muscles and chest. You couldn't hurt him. I mean, were you going to hurt him?
It just went from his head down. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, Dwaylen guy. But he was just a natural gorilla and a super strong guy.
So when it was decided that you were going to turn on Bruno, because I actually watched, I realized I had never seen the match, where it was you testing yourself against Bruno. You're trying to break out from his shadow. The student, getting out under the shadow of his teacher. And then the chair came into play. How hard was that for you to do that? As far as like not physically, but like mentally, like.
Well, it was kind of a nerve-wracking controlled experience because at the time I was looking for the big break. I was like maybe 25, 26 years old or so. And by that time I was known as Bruno's protege. Even to promoters, they'd say, hey, maybe we can bring this kid in because we got magazines out of New York. What's his name? Yeah, the Bruno protege guy. My name was getting lost. I was just Bruno's protege.
Gotcha.
And at the same time, Bruno retired after injuries and years and 20 years of selling out the garden. He was doing the voiceover, talking with Vince,
Hmm.
and Bob Backlund was the champion for a while. But I saw the bit when Bruno retired, the fans just didn't want to see that yet. And Ben Backlund couldn't fill his shoes. I mean, really, nobody could fill his shoes. Nothing against Bob, but Bob looked like a little high school kid next to Bruno with
True.
the people we're used to. So the business was going down, and from everything I learned from the old school guys, because in those days the WWE was different. I mean, the WWE is a great company. You get contracts. If you get hurt, they pay for it. If you're rehabbing, you get checks every week. When I started, there was none of that. If you didn't sell a ticket, you didn't eat.
Hmm.
You know, I mean, there was no contracts or that. And I was watching the business go way down, and I knew if anybody could get Bruno back in the ring for one more comeback, one thing, that guy would be a big star because all the publicity came out of New York.
Right.
And so, I mean, I think I drove Bruno nuts. I drove Vince McMahon Sr. nuts, but I finally got him to go for the idea. And when Bruno came back, I mean, the fans were just so excited. We sold out the Garden 3 times before Shea, and not to, plus the Philadelphia Spectrums, the Boston Gardens, Pittsburgh Civic Arena. I mean, for 6 months before Shea Stadium, the business was huge. And I didn't realize it, but people back then, I mean, they really hated me. Bruno was the most truly beloved guy that the fans believed in that will probably ever be.
Hmm.
And they really hated me. I met Mike Tyson once. I went, "Hey, Mike, my name's Larry." And before I could say anything, he went, "God, I hated you when I was a kid. I wanted to kill you. Why did you hit Bruno in the head with that chair?"
Oh,
Because he was being raised in Brooklyn and he was a big fan.
Yeah.
But I walked out of a building, I was shot at, I was stabbed in the ass. There was riots every night. I'd wrestle guys like Putski or Pedro Morales or Strongbow, and there'd be riots. And oh my God, I mean, it was an adventure, but I mean, I lived a hell of a life. I really can't complain. And right now, I'm just laying low because I don't want to hurt myself. But I had a hell of a life.
oh, and speaking of the Shea Stadium show, you got to think y'all were the main event. You and Bruno in the cage.
Well, that was it. Yeah.
Yeah, and which to me, I mean, that ended up getting match of the year for Pro Wrestling Illustrated. On the undercard was Andre and Hogan.
Yeah.
So that says something. I mean, the main event, you and Bruno, was bigger than even that match.
Well, what was going on is an interesting story. It was me and Bruno, and then they had Hogan and Andre again and some other guys. But by this point, Andre already has been wrestling Hogan for months because Andre was so big and Hogan was just starting that, and Terry was big. And for a guy 310 pounds, whatever he was, 6'6", 6'7", he could move good. He had great balance, smart guy. And one time in the Garden, he came up to me after 4 months. He's been there every night with Andre. He asked my advice because he goes, "God, I'm so sick of Andre beating the crap out of me every night." But they needed a big guy to get in the ring with Andre because everybody else looked like, a tiny people.
Hmm.
Andre was so big. But yeah, there was the undercard. I can't remember the whole thing, but it was, Hulk and Andre, and there might have been the original Samoans against somebody. Pedro.
Yes,
I don't remember the whole thing.
I watched part of that one today too. Is the Samoans against Backlund and Pedro Morales for the tag titles, and it was 2 out of 3 falls match, and Backlund and Pedro ended up winning the tag titles, but then they had to almost immediately give them up because Backlund was the world champion at the time.
Oh, okay, yeah, I could. But the weird thing was, I mean, it was like over 44,000 people-ish. We sold out Shea Stadium. In those days, that was rare because there was no cable. They had an hour TV show that showed like at midnight or something, WOR out of New York. But the other thing was they must have turned 5,000-6,000 people away because they wouldn't put chairs on the infield because they didn't want the chairs and the people to, just screw up the whole infield grass for the baseball games.
Right.
All right.
But yeah, that could have been more. That was days before pay-per-view and all that. It was really, if you look at history of wrestling, it almost marks the end of the old school era. It ended huge in Shea Stadium. And then right after that, a new era started with the national cable that made territories, go away, and pay-per-view, which changed the whole income structure of the company and the business. So it was really kind of a marker of the end of an old school era. And I'm really proud to be part of it. And thank you, Bruno, because if it wasn't for Bruno, I mean, I wouldn't have made it.
And you ended up leaving, what was it, about a year or two later after?
Yeah, about that. I mean, I was there for, a time after that. And the way things were going, Bruno went back and, was talking again on the mic. And if I would have stayed there, I would have started losing all my momentum. And I wanted, I made a name for myself, and because of the magazines, the NWA, the AWA, other territories, Japan, I mean, they all knew me. I was a big star. So instead of staying in the WWE, I left for a while. I went to Japan a couple of times, but then they wanted me in the AWA. Then they wanted me in the AWA. But then, again, with the changing of the eras, right when that happened, unfortunately, Vince McMahon Sr. died. Vince took over, and Vince was the new young promoter on the block. The other one's the Crockett family, and the mother was the one that held the purse strings. And the Gagne family, Vern was already old, and they were all millionaires, and they had their territory set up, and they were all comfortable and didn't even think about this new era starting with national cable and the birth of pay-per-view. And they didn't see the end of the territories coming right away, but Vince did. And what he did was Vince took all the top talent he could get from the NWA. He took Piper and Macho and Steamboat and probably other guys I can't remember. Then from the AWA, he had, Bobby Heen and Jesse the Body Ventura, someone else, Mean Gene. He took all the top people from the other two territories and hired them and put them under contracts. And then that freaked out the AWA and the NWA, which were now trying to compete because they see a new era, but they kind of missed the boat a bit. Vince had all the big stars, Hogan and everybody else. So it kind of left me a break because I always needed somebody. So I'd be in the NWA a while, then I'd be in the AWA a while. Then I'd be back in the NWA with Dusty and Baby. Then I'd be back in the AWA with Buck Winkle. I wound up with the belt or something. And I'd go to Japan. So it worked out good for me in a way. I wish I would have been with the WWE more because that's the business that's still showing stuff, from the old days.
True.
But it's a great company, and they're still treating me great. And I heard, I mean, like some company bought the WWE, right?
Endeavor. Yeah, they combined
Endeavor.
the WWE and UFC, and now their stock symbol actually changed from WWE to TKO. Easy to remember.
Yeah. Yeah, and they bought, but now they own all the WWF stuff, the WCW stuff, the AWA stuff. And they like to make shows, for Peacock and other stations they're with, because they got like the dark side of wrestling. And I never really had a dark side, but they got, shows on people's careers, and they kind of went through everybody. I mean, they went through the Hulk, and they went through Flair, and they went through Austin, and they went. So I'm thinking, well, gee, maybe pretty soon they can go back to the me and Bruno thing with a documentary, or a me and Bockwinkel thing from here, or a me and Dusty thing from there. Who knows? So I'm getting excited because there's two things coming up. One is a movie that's driving me nuts. I made a movie. I was in this whole movie me, Tonga, Ernie the Cat Miller, Glacier, Luther Biggs, a few real actors. And we made a movie, or Ray did, Glacier, made a movie called The Unbreakable Bunch. And it was supposed to come out Friday, a couple of days ago, Friday the 13th. But then they decided to put it off because of politics with the actors' strike and the writers' strike or something. And they didn't want to start competing with the holiday blockbusters for the Christmas season, Thanksgiving, Christmas season. But you're getting to the point where Hollywood's producing, Chucky 20, Batman 30, Superman 15, they're running out of stuff. But this movie called The Unbreakable Bunch, it's kind of come out in January now. And which is a good time because everybody saw the holiday movie gimmicks, but now in January it's still cold all over the country mostly. So people, won't go outside and do stuff. It's still too cold, but they'll go into it, see a movie, and I don't know if it's going to be in the movies or if it's going to be on Roku or Peacock or Netflix. I don't understand this whole streaming thing. But I was getting all excited because it was going to start Friday, but now it's going to come out in January. It's called The Unbreakable Bunch. You can look it up. But it was done very well, family-friendly movie. It's not about wrestling. It's a science fiction action adventure film where wrestlers save a town from aliens. And it was done really well. Good stuff. I can't wait to see the damn thing.
Yeah, I'm definitely going to go check that out whenever it finally does come out.
Yeah, you can Google it, and but yeah, now January, and then there's a TV show that might start in October, and I don't know what they're going to call it, but I filmed it maybe close to a year ago with some guy, where somebody got 3,300 hours of old wrestling footage from the 1950s. And early 60s from that the WWE doesn't own. No one owns it. They got some from Jarrett and some from maybe Texas but you got the original Gorgeous George and Young Luthez and Young Buddy Rogers.
Oh wow.
And they left the original commentating on the show, over the matches. So what me and this guy did was we just hosted it and said, "Hey, welcome to Legends of Wrestling, blah, blah, blah tonight." And then at the end, we do one. Wasn't that great? Oh my God! Don't miss next week. We got the original Gorgeous George. So I think it's something the fans will really love because you watch stuff in the 1950s and stuff. It's so different. But it's supposed to start in October, I hope. But it was supposed to start a couple of months ago. So all these things that are supposed to happen, that are done, that don't happen, are driving me nuts. I'm supposed to be a movie TV star again, and any minute now.
And so when you went to the AWA, now correct me if I'm wrong, are they the first company who actually had action figures of the wrestlers?
You know what? It's an interesting thing. I can tell you an interesting story about that. I was in the NWA in the 84, 85 when merchandise started. Before that, there wasn't any merchandise. And I made a record called Boo on Me in 1980. If I was smart, I would have used it, as entrance music. But back then, there was none.
Right.
So anyway, but Boo on Me is going to be in the movie when I say Boo on Me anyway. But so what happened was in 1985 was the first action figure, I was in the AWA.
Right.
And here's an interesting story, because at that time, Vince was already in the lead, with the nationwide cable and running pay-per-views in Chicago and Charlotte, and everybody else is past territory. So the Gagnes and the Crockett's were working together, trying to compete against the WWE. They were running the Meadowlands together and some other towns, together. And in 1985, I get the first action figures, AWA action figures, but they came two in a pack. There'd be, like Greg Gagne and Jim Brunzell, or
Oh, the high flyers.
High Flyers, or somebody. And in my pack, it was interesting. And here's the weird part. My pack, it was me and Ric Flair. And I've signed some. Those are classics. But Ric Flair wasn't in the AWA. He was in the NWA. And what was supposed to be happening was, when these dolls came out in 85, the NWA and the AWA were supposed to be having a big feud to, try to compete with Vince.
Right.
And it was going to be some kind of an invasion thing. And they wanted me, I made some interviews, knocking Flair, saying, "Come on, Flair, you coward. I retired Bruno. I'm the living legend, and I'll retire the man." And Flair was supposed to come back to me on TBS and, rip me a new one. And
Mm-hmm.
one of the shows, one of the, AWA or NWA was going to interfere and all that. But it didn't happen. At the last minute, the Crockett's and Gagnes couldn't work it out. And the mother of the Crockett's, who ran the purse string, said, "That's it." She sold out to Turner. And that's why me and Ric Flair were in the same packet, because we were supposed to be wrestling each other when they came out. That didn't happen. So then they came out with another one called the Collector's Edition with me and Bockwinkel in it.
Okay.
But the interesting thing was, it was the same idea, the same invasion idea of one group invading another group, that happened 10 years later. And it was called the New World Order.
Yep. But say all that did kind of sound familiar. What do you think, Dwaylen?
It was the same idea.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Speaking of wrestling figures, and because we actually do have a sponsor this week, and our sponsor is the House of Plastic. Plastic is actually spelled Plastik instead of C. They have vintage toys and collectibles. If you're ever in the Cincinnati area, head over to 834 Ohio Pike, Suite 310. That's in Cincinnati. You can also email them at House of Plastic, like I said, spell the K on the N, at yahoo.com. And you can also find them on Facebook. The owner told me yesterday, if you come in and mention that you heard the advertisement on this show, he will give you 10% off on wrestling figures. And believe me, he has a lot. I can point to at least 5 right behind me that I bought there at his shop. So, but I want to thank them so much for actually sponsoring us this week, because I said, hey, the living legend Larry Zbyzsko is going to be on the show this week. And he said, where do I sign up? So
God bless him.
Yes, sir. So, and Joel, I know you had some questions about his run, about Larry's run in the AWA.
I did. How was it when you first won the AWA World Title?
Well, you know what? I'm trying to go back years and remember some things that happened. And it was kind of a weird situation, because I was in the NWA at the time. I got a call. They wanted me to go back to the AWA, and I was supposed to wrestle Jerry Lawler. At that time, Jerry Lawler had the belt.
Right.
And then I said, "Oh, okay, yeah, I'd love to work with Lawler. Never worked with him, would have been great." So, but by the time I got there, something happened where Jerry and Vern got in an argument, probably about a payday, because back in them days, you had to butt heads sometimes.
Mm-hmm.
So when I got there, Jerry wasn't there. He got mad. He left and took the belt with him. And then Vern had to threaten to sue him for the belt. Then Jerry sent the belt back, but it was kind of dented up. So Vern made a new belt, the one that I had, which, if you look at it, the new one was a replica of the very first belt ever made in the 1800s. And it's shaped like a police badge, because the first belt ever made was made by the Boston Police Gazette. And that's why it was shaped like a badge. And for Frank Muldoon, who wound up winning it. But yeah, so I never got to work with Lawler, but I remember, I think I won it in a battle royal, maybe, or something, because
you did. I watched it about an hour ago.
Oh my God!
you can find it.
But you know what? It was a thrill, because I had it, and at that time we pulled off another classic that not too many people talk about, because it happened in Japan. And this was an interesting night because like Sunday night or Saturday night was the big Mike Tyson versus Buster Douglas fight in Tokyo. The day before was a wrestling show, like Baba's group versus Inoki's group. And I was the AWA champion, and I wrestled Masa Saito for the championship. And we sold out the Tokyo Dome. It was like 65,000 people or whatever the hell it held. I mean, it was amazing. We outdrew the Mike Tyson Buster Douglas fight, who everybody thought Mike Tyson would beat him up anyway.
Right.
Right.
But I got a weird story about that, but I can't tell you. But
you have to tell us once we're no longer recording.
yeah, but that was weird. Uh-oh. You see me?
Yep.
Yes, we still see you.
What in the hell?
Oh yeah, we see you.
Yeah,
Well,
we still see
I
you.
can't see you. I accidentally touched something, and all it says now on my screen is Zoom, but no picture.
I'm wondering, you may have something at the bottom of your screen. You know what? All right, we're back. Had a technical difficulty there for a second, but we are back. So as you were saying, Mr. Zbyzsko, sir.
I'm a technical difficulty.
So you're wrestling. You defended against Saito.
Yeah, me and Saito had a hell of a match in Tokyo, Japan, and sold out the Tokyo Dome. And then we had a rematch, and he beat me for the belt. Then we had a rematch in Minneapolis shortly after that, and I won the belt back from him. But that was a wild time. I mean, I was in Japan a few times. It was an interesting country. I had a great time and loved playing pachinko. It was like gambling with these little balls. Like,
Yep.
yeah, I love pachinko.
Yeah, I was actually stationed in Japan twice, far north. I mean, up in Misawa Air Base. So yeah, the pachinko parlors, they were actually off limits for us, unfortunately.
Oh, too bad. They weren't for me.
But one thing, if anybody's in Japan, if you can, please send me some Georgia coffee. Absolutely love it. Miss it. But anyway, sorry, Dwayne, I didn't mean to hijack your question.
No,
there.
you're good. You're good.
I had actually totally forgot that Masa Saito was AWA World Champion.
Oh yeah, and he was a tough guy. I mean, when he was in the Olympics, and I think he was half Korean, half Japanese. I think he was like.
Oh, okay. I didn't know that.
And it was weird because when you were there, I mean, the Japanese men don't have hair on their chest. They're not as hairy as other people. And when I would walk from the dressing room to the ring, the women would come to the barrier, and they would stick their arm across and rub your chest. And I'm going, what the hell's going on here? Getting chest rubs from all these women because they wanted to see what on his hair on his chest. It always struck me funny.
So one of the things that I've noticed was when I was looking through, your Wikipedia article. By the way, you've made it when you have your own article on Wikipedia.
I do.
You do.
I believe you. I just never...
Oh yeah, you absolutely do. But I mean, and it seems like everywhere you went, you won some gold.
Yeah.
I mean,
I was good.
Yeah. So,
yes, you were.
Yes. And
you know what? There was a secret. I mean, it's kind of a lost art now. I mean, but wrestling was the original unreality show. It was, and it stars good and evil. Basically, it's a good and evil, but it's disguised as this massive, awesome sporting event where there's a good guy and a bad guy. And that's what got people, emotionally involved, and why the bad guys were usually bigger than the good guys, because you get that natural root for the underdog thing. But what I stole from the old timers that broke me in, from Bruno to Chief Strongbow and Scola and Panini and Gorilla Monsoon and others, where you want the people to believe in your character. They believe Bruno could walk through a wall, but I had him I had them believing that no matter what anybody thought of wrestling, people believed I was a real asshole in real life. They believed I was an a-hole. And when I walked out, people call it stalling now, but I could stand there for sometimes 5 minutes, sometimes 10 minutes. And I wouldn't just stand there. I'd go out and yell at the ref or I'd jump back. But the crowd would chant, Larry sucks. For 10, 15 minutes, I didn't have to do anything. Because if I would have tied up, they would have all been quiet. So they all went berserk. But everybody believed that in real life, I was an a-hole. And that was kind of the secret of my
right.
wrestledom.
And I know I can see that kind of influence, like the stalling. Well, even back then, Tully Blanchard, he used to do it. Now Roman Reigns does it sometimes. Anybody else, Dwayne? I know I'm missing some.
Roman's the first one that comes to mind. He does it pretty well. You can tell he got that influence.
And so some of the different championships that you've won, of course, we mentioned the AWA World Title. You were actually the last person to hold the AWA World Title.
Yeah.
The AWA America's Championship, you were the first one to hold that.
Oh, good. I forgot about it.
Yep. And then Sergeant Slaughter, Sergeant Slaughter got it from you. He was the last one. So it was only two, but I mean, either way, we'll see the WCW World Television Championship, which, by the way, I just want to let you know, next week we are scheduled to have the current NWA World Television Champion. He's actually a friend of mine in Dwayland's, and his name is Matthew Big Strong Mims. You talk about just jacked.
Oh yeah.
And he just became the champion, and so I've already talked to him. We were supposed to have him on this Friday, but then I had a conflict, and so we had to reschedule to next week. But get a chance to check it out. So I mean, kind of makes us feel good that we're having a former world television champion, and then we're going to have the current world television champion. So we're kind of fun. There's a lot of lineage in between there.
Oh God, yeah. Me and Gurria had the championships.
Yep,
Me and Norton had tag team championship. I had a national heavyweight championship. Something to do with me and Orndorff and some crazy guy. What the hell was his name?
Oh, Killer Tim Brooks.
Yeah, Killer Brooks. He was insane.
Because that was actually something else. Another thing, Dwayland, you can see an influence. The living legend paid Killer Tim Brooks $25,000 for the title. And then they came and said, oh, no, you can't do that. But then he won the tournament anyway. Wow.
Right.
That was in 83, 84. I wonder what happened a few years after that with, Larry was first. I mean, unless you tell me there was somebody before you. But as far as I'm concerned, you were the first one to do that.
Yeah, plus the Western States Championship belt. I still had that one, too, because that was a weird story how that ended.
Oh, yeah, because Dwayne, I know you said you had a question about that as well, right?
Yeah, I was like, I know you and Barry Windham traded it back and forth. And was it just Barry that you defended it against, or did you defend it against other people, or were you two just in a feud over?
Here's the weird part. I probably would have wound up doing a program with Dusty out of it. Because when I had the Western States champ, they had Baby Doll be my valet.
Right.
And Baby Doll just married Sam Houston, just got married to Sam Houston. And she was playing my valet, and we'd walk out and do interviews. And the Crockett's wanted her to interrupt the Dusty Rhodes interview to build up me and Dusty, because she had this, 8x10 envelope with pictures. She was in a blackmail. And people talked about that for years. And what happened was she was supposed to go out and, tell him about the blackmail, and she'll expose him and get him out of business if he don't blah, 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 something with me. And then she was supposed to grab Dusty and give him a big kiss. Not a romantic kiss. It was going to become the kiss of death in the storyline. But she didn't kiss him, because Sam Houston found out that she was supposed to kiss him and did a big freak out, jealous thing in the back. So Baby Doll went out, did the thing, didn't kiss him, walked out. The Crockett's got mad, fired her. And that's how that all just ended.
Wow.
And people
Wow.
talked about it for years. What was in the envelopes?
I am kind of still wondering. I'm wondering though, maybe it was, what was in the briefcase in Pulp Fiction was the same thing.
Yeah, I don't know, but anyway, baby. Anyway, that was that. Oh, you're fired. Done. Next.
Yeah. And so just, just kind of just killed the storyline, because I remember when she came out with that envelope
Yeah.
and he looked in it, closed it, and he walked off. And I went, what's going to happen? And then nothing happened.
Nothing.
Yeah.
He
got divorced.
Yeah. Actually, I met you a few weeks ago up in Chillicothe at the Fan Fest that Bobby Fulton was putting on. About a year ago, I actually met Baby Doll and Sam Houston. They were both there at the same time, and Jake Roberts was there.
Okay, yeah.
They're
brothers.
Yep. And where Baby Doll and Jake Roberts were almost like right beside each other, in the one corner, Sam Houston was all the way at the other side.
The other side.
So
keep away from him. Maybe I might want to kill him.
Yeah, I mean, and I mean, I bet they're amicable to each other. I mean, because they do have kids together, but at the same time, I mean,
yeah,
the
the wrestling business was so tough to be married in, and I was told young, don't get married because you're never home. You're in a different city every night. And then when I'm going to Japan for a month, see you in 5 weeks, and I got to fly here. I mean, it was really a tough business to be married in when you were young. And I tried it once. I think the first one lasted a year, but it was a sweet ending, and everything was nice. But yeah, it's a tough business to be married in.
But you married into a different wrestling family, didn't you?
Well, later on, down the road, I married one of Vern Gagne's daughters. And it was funny because we were going out, me and Kathy, but we were keeping it a secret.
Oh, okay.
Because we didn't want anybody to say stuff, or we didn't want anybody in the business or go, oh, Larry's just getting the big push here because he's dating Kathy Gagne, or some nonsense. So we kept it a secret. And I'd been to 3 live concerts my whole life. One time we went to see Eric Clapton. Was he the one that went da 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 da? Cocaine.
Yep.
Okay.
Yep.
I went to see him with a few mafia guys in New Jersey in like 1980-ish or so. And then me and Kathy went to 2 concerts in Minnesota. One was the Moody Blues and one was Bob Seger. The only 3 concerts I've ever been at. And the last concert we went to, the one with Bob Seger maybe, at the end of the concert, we turned around and left. And who was sitting right behind us was her brother, Greg, and his wife. So we got busted, right? The next day, I get a call. Vern would like to see you in the office. Oh my God, Vern wants to see me in the office. So I got this plan. So I go in and I see the secretary, and she says, oh yeah, Vern's waiting for you. So I open the door and Vern's sitting at the desk, and I open the door and I woke up and I go, Dad! And I caught him off guard. But it worked out good. And Kathy's a hell of a woman, great mother. And she was raised in the business, so we had something in common. And it worked out actually good.
And she understood the travel. So
yeah, well, she understood the travel. Then it kind of lucked out because we got married in '88, but by maybe by less than early 2000, 2001, I started doing the broadcasting, which meant I only worked a day and a half a week.
Right.
So, and then even with Nitro, I'd fly out one day from Monday and then fly back and do a syndicated. So I was on the golf course most of the time, but I was home a lot. So we really had a chance to be together, where in the normal wrestling, if I was a wrestler, I'd be gone, So I was, we were together too much. Now she's sick of me. But anyway.
Yeah, that just not occurred to me, because your time in the AWA, you were a heel. Correct?
Oh yeah.
And then Vern, of course, with this time, I mean, he was like the ultimate face because he's the owner of the company, and of course Greg. I know you had some battles against him in the ring, but would y'all like, would you have actually gotten in trouble back then, because kayfabe was still very real, if the public had known that the woman you were there with was Vern Gagne's daughter?
Oh, you know what? I don't think so. But like you said, back then it was a different world. There really wasn't much to think about because there was no social media. You know, there was no
Right.
internet. No one knew 99.9% of what was going on unless you got busted,
Right.
you know, or something. But
Hmm.
so there was something really not even really thought about the public. We just didn't want Vern and the boys to know.
It almost sounds like we've actually heard the story when Bobby Eaton, of course, the late Bobby Eaton, when he was dating Bill Dundee's daughter. At first, they were doing it in secret because
Oh yeah,
Bill
I
Dundee
never knew that. Yeah.
Yeah, they said Bill Dundee did not want his daughter dating any wrestlers, but then he found out it was Bobby. He's like, all right, because I guess Bobby Eaton, was like the nicest person in the history of ever.
Bobby was a sweet guy, really a sweet guy, nice guy.
And then you accidentally, like almost broke his shoulder in the
Yeah,
the
I didn't mean to.
right. Was the War Games, right, Dwaylen? Remember? Yeah.
God, you guys remember more than I do. My God.
Oh, like we said, I mean, Dwaylen is the walking, talking encyclopedia of wrestling. I mean, I can spout out some stuff, but I'm nothing compared to Dwaylen.
Dwaylen's got it down. Huh?
He's got it down. But that actually, when that happened, though, you ended up turning face, and that was the first time you had been a face, I'm assuming, since 1980.
I'm trying to think. I mean, really, when I started becoming a good guy was actually when I started the broadcasting, because me and Arn were the enforcers.
Love
And
that tag team, by the way.
yeah, you know what? Everybody did. I mean, me and Arn clicked together. Arn was great in the ring, great to travel with, and people bought him because he had that look. But the enforcers, when we walked out, we got reactions like we were back in the 70s. You know, whoa! And it was great. And then Bill Watts came in and screwed things up, but they made the group the Dangerous Alliance. And I didn't want to be part of a group. And I was like maybe 42 now, had another knee surgery. And I told the TBS guys, oh, my knee hurts. So I got another knee scope with the cartilage, but I didn't want to be part of a group. And they had great guys. Eaton was in the group, Rude was in the group, Stone Cold was in the group before he was Stone Cold, Stunning Steve. But I was a heel for 20 years, and I didn't want to lose my singular identity and be part of a group, which was rare in those days. No one even had groups really. Right. But so I did the knee thing, and I was sitting at home rehabbing the knee, and I got a call from a producer that said, "Hey, Larry, Jesse the Body just quit. Can you come down and do a voiceover over a couple of pre-taped syndicated shows for syndicated markets?" And I went, yeah, okay. I mean, they were still sending me checks. This was the time Ted Turner was giving away money like candy. And I said, yeah, sure, I'll come down. So I went down, and I can't remember if it was Jim Ross or Tony Schiavone I did it with. It could have been Gordon Soley, but I did a couple shows they had recorded. And after a couple of shows, the door busted open, and this producer runs in and goes, Larry, you're the greatest guy we ever heard commentate. Do you want to be a commentator? We'll give you this much a year. And I go, I almost fell off the chair. That's more money than I made wrestling. What do you? And and I wouldn't get hurt, and I was already getting to the age. I mean, wrestling's not a great career for someone too much over 40. I mean, it's brutal. It's physically brutal. You can do it, and I still did. So I did some with Lord Regal because he was great and some stuff. But it's like a football player. Got 65-year-old football players running down the field grabbing passes. Right. But but that's how the broadcasting gig started. I went, yeah, sure, I'll do that. Damn, I was only working a day a week or so, and then Nitro, fly out. And so I kind of turned 10-year gravy run of the broadcasting was like a gift. So thank you, Biz. And it gave me a couple of new generations of audiences, younger audiences that got to know me, because other guys my age, 40, 45, 50, were already starting to go away or get beat up or dead,
Yeah.
Yeah, you always got huge ovations on Nitro. Whenever, whenever you'd come out to the broadcast booth, I mean, the fans always went nuts.
Yeah, they did. Now with that we were talking about, being the heel, good guy. But when I started doing the broadcasting, I had to change my persona, because people, when I was wrestling, they believed I was an a-hole and they hated me, and I did things to make them hate me. But then I changed my persona and did things because my job wasn't to get me over anymore. My job was to get the guys in the ring over.
Yep.
So I couldn't be a butthole and say, "Oh, this guy is a lucky goof. He sucks." I had to make him sound great. So so my whole persona kind of changed when I started the broadcasting, and then as I got older, the living legend made more sense and stuck with me, because now I was an older legend guy and all that, and it worked out great. I really had a blessed life and a blessed career, and thank God. Everything worked out good. I got 4 boys, 5 grandkids. None of the boys need money. Thank God. They're all working and doing good.
Some of the accolades, because we even really touched on like the awards. Rookie of the Year in 1974. And this is all from Pro Wrestling Illustrated. Match of the Year in 1980. The most hated wrestler of the year in 1980, which, by the way, do you get a plaque for that? Because
no, I got a knife in the ass.
That's
what I got out of
it. Also, you were part of the Tag Team of the Year in 1991 with the Enforcer, Arn Anderson. For the PWI, the Top 500, you were number 38 in 1991. You're number 105 in 2003. And of course, when we say, they said that the top 500, that's the top 500 out of what, 10,000, 20,000 wrestlers in the world. That's amazing. To make anything in the top 500 to me is, it's a huge accomplishment. And to be as high as what you got, I mean, that's amazing.
Well, thank God.
Yeah.
So, I didn't know. I don't read those things. But.
Yeah. And, so I mean, and after WCW, I mean, I wasn't able to keep a lot up track with a lot of your career, but Dwaylen, I know you knew more about it than I did, because I mean, I knew you were in TNA at one point.
Yeah, you were the on-screen authority figure for a while.
Yeah, I did the commissioner thing. I came to Florida after WCW ended, and I turned like 51. I was golfing my butt off, and I was good. I mean, I was a scratch golfer, and so I wanted to try professional golf. I moved to Florida here, Orlando, to play on the professional mini tours, not the PGA like with Lee Trevino and Jack Nicklaus and them, but they have the professional mini tours. So I tried that, and damn it, I was just 3 strokes not good enough. I mean, the best game I ever turned in was a 67 out there. And that's my best game. Par 72, and I'd be 70, 71, 72, 69, 73. I mean, but I was like 3 strokes not good enough to win money. So I did that for a year, but it became like a job, because you had to drive somewhere, to a course. And then you had to get up at 6:30 and get cleaned up, wake up, get something to eat for a 7:45 tee off time. And the wind's blowing, and you hit one bad shot, you might as well go home, because the guys you're playing against weren't a big star like Arnold Palmer, but they were on the European Order of Merit. And the 30 years I was wrestling, they were golfing. So if they turned in a 67, they're mad. I'm jumping up and down for joy.
Right.
But but that was interesting. And then TNA was right. Was right in Orlando. So it was close to where I live, like 10 minutes away. So I'd go over there and do a couple of skits with, their television shooting. And after that, I'd go hit all the rides. I rode all the rides at Universal for years. I loved them.
Oh, that means I was doing the wrong job for a long time. You know, when I did the Air Force for 20 years, I should have been something else. Because I mean, I'd moved to Orlando in a heartbeat. To be honest with you, my daughter, you know, she spent 9 months down there working with the Disney College program, but she's like, I like Ohio better. I'm like, no, I want to be somewhere warm.
Well, yeah, I mean, the warmth is good, no snow, but at my age now, I got family all over the place. But when people come into town to visit, there's always something to do. You got Universal,
right.
you got Disney, you got SeaWorld, you got this, you got dinner shows, International Boulevard. I mean, the beach is 25 minutes down the road. I mean, it's really a lot to do here.
Yeah, the world's largest McDonald's, and they
Yeah.
actually, it's not a, yeah, Joel, if you ever get a chance to go to that McDonald's, it's not a normal McDonald's. They have like a pasta menu, but
Oh,
I
wow.
mean, it feels like you're in a sit down restaurant. I mean, it's actually, and it's right across the street from one of Hulk Hogan's shops. I just now remember that. um, I had some more questions, but they kind of all of a sudden ran out of my head.
Senior moment.
Just about. I mean, Dwaylen and I both turned 50 in the past, you know, few months. I turned 50 in August. He turned 50 in July. You know, so we're starting to hit those moments where we're going to start hiding our own Easter eggs.
Now you guys, I'm going to hit 72 in a couple months. I'm freaking out.
I actually did see your birthday. You were born 1 year and 2 days after my mom.
Oh yeah, I was born 1951 December.
Yep. But Dwaylen, did you have any other questions? Because I mean, I'm trying to remember. Going through my notes.
No, I had a couple, but I can't think of them now. I know I'll think of them later after we stop recording. But
yeah, that's
no,
how it works.
Yeah.
Actually, you know what? I know what I had written down my bullet notes. Netflix just well, it's on Netflix right now. A documentary called Wrestlers. Have you had a chance to see that yet?
No, you know what? I don't know how to work this TV set. I got some channels. Sometimes I want to watch something. They'll say upgrade. I don't know how to upgrade. So I don't think I can get things like I got a different TV or some kind of weird thing or something.
Yeah, that one's. I mean, it's a documentary they filmed for a few months down in Louisville, with OVW and Al Snow and people who actually bought Ohio Valley Wrestling, and it's actually, you know, pretty good. And then there was another show called Heels, which is on Stars, but that one just finished a second season. But it's not a documentary; it's an actual like TV show. You know, about a fictitious company in Georgia. But that one, they said they canceled it the second season. I'm like, you left it on a pretty huge cliffhanger.
They canceled. They did say they were shopping it around though, trying to find another network.
It's too good of a show not to be on.
Yeah.
I think. But I had something else, but I just want to point out, just talking to Larry Dwaylen, the man has many, he wears many hats because obviously, you know, the living legend, he's one of the most revered professional wrestlers in the world.
Yep.
But
Hall of Famer.
Hall of Famer, WWE Hall of Famer. You know, you're the first Hall of Famer we've had on the show. You're the first world champion we've had on the show.
Well, thanks.
Yeah,
I appreciate it.
But you're also an actor, because we were talking about your movie that'll be coming. It's supposed to be coming out last Friday, but no, they're delayed it.
Yeah, in January, The Unbreakable Bunch.
The Unbreakable Bunch. But if Tonga wants to rename it, it'll probably get renamed because, well,
nobody argues with Tonga.
Nobody argues with Tonga. But we were talking before the show. You're also a private pilot. Didn't know that until.
Oh, cool.
Oh yeah, I flew around the country for 20 years, when, you know, different places. And I just rent a plane and fly town to town. And I flew over the Torch of the Statue of Liberty, through the Grand Canyon, over the coast. I mean, it was. I really had a unique life. I can't complain. And the health is great. So
that's awesome.
Oh,
I'm just not doing anything to hurt myself.
And a scratch golfer.
Well, I was.
I mean, I was born in Pinehurst, and I'm not even a scratch golfer. Of course, I didn't play golf all that often, but and let's see what other titles. Well, of course, I know for me, and I know Dwaylen is the same way. The most important titles for us would also be husband and father, and of course, in your case, also grandfather.
Grandfather, I got a new 3.5-month-old grandson, lives right down the road 20 minutes. I was babysitting him yesterday. so mom and dad could go out for dinner and a movie.
Right.
They've been working their butts off. The maternity leave's over. They both work for Universal. So I was hanging out with my latest grandson, 3.5 months old, and I got another granddaughter that's going to be 2 years old this week, the 19th. She lives in Maryland. And would you say you were in the Air Force, Steve?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. For 20 years.
My one son's in the Air Force. He's the one with my 3-year-old granddaughter, or 2-year-old granddaughter. And gets restationed in the Air Force.
I think you told me the other day he's in Maryland, like Andrews, isn't he?
Air Force 2.
Air Force 2.
Yeah, he's stationed on
Wow.
Air Force 2. He was flying around with Pence. Now he's been flying around with Harris and generals and whatever else gets on Air Force 2.
So he's an actual pilot then.
Well, he doesn't fly the planes. He's in the communication.
Okay.
With the secret texting messaging. I mean,
Right.
I never talked to him on the phone about anything because his clearance is so high.
Right.
Everybody's
Right.
spying on him. So I never talk about anything he does.
I was stationed in Maryland for just under 3 years when I was in. I actually worked at the National Security Agency because of my job that I did intel.
Good.
So I get it. Definitely get it about the clearance. And another good friend of mine in Dwaylen's, who we graduated high school with, he actually, he was supposed to actually go do the same job that your son was doing at one point. And then the assignment ended up falling through. So I did 20 years, 1 month, 19 days, and I retired in May 10 years ago.
Yeah, no, he's doing great, and I'm proud of all my boys. All grandkids are healthy and great. So I can't complain. I'm knocking on wood as we speak.
So as far as like fan fests, like, do you have any future appearances already on the books where people can see you?
You know what? I don't have anything planned right now, and I kind of slowed down a bit. Just waiting for all this COVID stuff with the airlines and the airports to, finally clear up. And flying through the holidays like Thanksgiving, Christmas, forget it. I'm not flying anywhere. I mean, I want things to get back to normal. It's a pain in the butt flying around. It took me an hour to park. Then I had to go 45 minutes through TSA. Then I get to the gate. I sit there. They go, "Oh, now it's delayed an hour." Oh, great! I haven't had a cigarette in now 5 hours, so I'm sitting here. But it's kind of a pain in the butt. So I'm not going anywhere till next year. I'm waiting for my movie to come out. Damn it!
And the name of the movie is The Unbreakable Bunch. Everybody remember that?
Unbreakable Bunch. Yeah, they got some trailers up now. I'm supposed to start, but I think January would be a good time. I think the blockbuster stuff's over. It's still cold. Go and watch a movie or Netflix. But there's somebody, I don't know what it's going to be on, but when I know, you'll know. Everybody's going to know. I'll blab.
And once we hear when it is, whether you've told us directly or not, we will make sure the word gets out.
Oh yeah,
absolutely.
please. Yeah. I mean, poor Ray was working on it. It took him 10 years. I mean, they wrote it, him and Luther, and then they tried to find financiers. They finally found a guy that put up the money, the over $1 million budget, but very well done. And his name was Shea, which cracked me up because it was like Shea Stadium.
Yeah.
But great guy, but it was really a well done movie. I can't wait to see the thing.
Dwaylen, do you have anything else?
No, not at the moment. Sorry,
you'll think about it. Yeah.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
That's
But it has been an honor to talk to you. I watched your career growing up, and it's just amazing for me to get to talk to you.
Well, thank you, Dwaylen. And I mean, the wrestling, over the last, from when I started, it was the fans and the wrestlers, but it kind of changed and evolved. Now you got a different scenario, different era, but it's like the wrestlers who love to entertain and break their necks, but the fans, it's almost like one big family now.
Mm-hmm.
It's just one big family that loves professional wrestling. It's really great. But thank you very much, Dwaylen, for being a fan.
And maybe sometime in the future we can definitely have you back on. because this has been absolutely fun. Thank you so much for coming on, and for all the fans out there, especially because when we announced that we were having a show, we had so many people hit us up. What are you doing? What are you doing? When are you doing it? When can I listen? Where can I watch it? And so a lot of people are absolutely looking forward to this, because and it's an absolute honor and pleasure on our end, because it's not very often you get to meet a living legend.
Well, thank you very much, guys.
So,
I'm trying to be humble, but it's hard.
Yeah, as soon as I found out, I texted my brother. I'm like, we're going to be interviewing Larry Zbyzsko.
Yes. And, we're going to be interviewing somebody who, like I said, has his own Wikipedia article. He has his own article on IMDb, which, by the way, we're also on IMDb. We're kind of a big deal, I guess. But you're also, you have your own wrestling figures, and you've been on video games. And so, like you said, you've had a very, very blessed life. It's kind of like the people look at it and go, man, that's something I wish I could actually match and emulate.
Yeah, well, I'm not done yet, but I've been lucky and a blessed life. I've lived a great life so far. If I had $1 million, it'd be better. But right
there
now,
you go.
So, sir, do you have any last messages for all the fans out there listening or watching?
No, but to all the fans, thank you very much. For being fans and making a happy wrestling family. And my dream came true, wanting to be a wrestler. And for all the fans out there, I hope all your dreams come true too, because life's a quick dream. We're in a temporary vehicle in the third dimension, which is the dimension of mass, to feel each other. And when a man and woman get together, it's such an ecstasy. We create more of ourselves, and creation goes on. So, but all the best to everybody out there. So, hopefully the world will finally be at peace with each other. Thank God.
Well, thank you so much for coming on, sir. And for everybody.
Thank you very much.
Yes. Absolutely. This has been an absolute pleasure. It's been a blast. And so everybody out there, we're just going to say goodbye and God bless.
All right. Well, goodbye and thank you all. The Big L.